We're going to stick with audio. Normally we go display calibration, but we're going to talk about audio calibration. This is another service that Jules offers to consumers and to professional clients. So Jules, what are we talking about when we say calibrating audio? What do we mean? What are we talking about?
I think that the first tendency people hear that phrase and they probably think about EQ systems, don't they? But I can't overemphasize enough the importance of the room. You can put the best speakers in the world in a terrible room and it might sound terrible. And you get a decent room, nicely treated, put some reasonable speakers in there and they'll sound much better. So the room is a huge audio component. And you can't just, slap an EQ on it. You can't just think EQ is going to save me. It's going to rescue the sound and make it brilliant, because you can't. So I would say, first thing in terms of calibrating, I would look at the speaker positions. Make sure your speaker positions are as good as possible. Dolby obviously have a layout that you can look at your particular arrangement and see if you can get close to that. Getting your speakers, your angles to your main seating position as close to optimum as possible. I've got a little thing I call my Ouija board. It's a board with speaker positions marked out on it, and you have a laser. It comes from, you can buy this from one of the distributors, and you point your laser and it will tell you where 22.5 degrees is and all the rest of it. It's pretty cool. But getting your speakers in the right position is the first is really important. And then about sort of treating the room as well, putting some absorption perhaps into those classic first, second, third reflection points, perhaps some diffusion around the back of the room as well. Not to create, we'll often go into rooms and either they're way too bright because there's absolutely no absorption, or they're there's absolutely no life whatsoever because it's been every there's so much absorption in the room, it's sucked the life out of the sound and you can hear the blood whirling around your ears, and that's very unpleasant. So getting that right is really important before you come to EQing your system. And then of course, AVRs, AV processors nowadays come with EQ systems in them. Some are slightly better than others, in my opinion. So you get your Denon, Marantz's, Yamahas, and so on with YPO, MCACC as Pioneer, Odyssey. They've all come with their little sort of bundled microphones. And I do wonder how much those microphones cost to make. They look really cheap, don't they? And I guess it's also a case of, with computers, garbage in, garbage out. So the better systems will have a more expensive microphone, a professional microphone. Something like if you're going to the top end, a Trinov has a very expensive, weird microphone with 3 prongs in there. They're £500, but they're really, really good. So you're capturing quality data, and then it's the processing power. And better systems will use computers, so you'll have the software on your laptop rather than within the actual amp itself, within the AVR. More processing power, more resolution, and so on and so forth. So. And there's things you can do. Room EQ Wizard is a free program. You can download that. You can buy yourself a better microphone than comes with your AVR, something like a UMIC 1 or 2. And you can take some really cool measurements from your room. You can find out what's going on within the room as a result of that. And you can make adjustments either manually, or use that to help you with something like the Odyssey editor, or with Dirac. Another great, very, very useful EQ system. But I would only fall back on EQ as it's the last thing you do rather than the first thing. It's not going to save you from a terrible room.
Yeah. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head right from the start there. It is a component of your sound room. It's the box in which you put in all the other boxes.
Yep.
And it has that effect. And again, if you've got false walls, if you've got suspended floors, all that kind of thing, you have to think very, very carefully about what the room is and how it's going to react to different sounds, and what you can do to treat those rooms. If this is a subject that is of interest and you want us to deep dive, It won't be before the new year, but certainly it's something that we can look at in terms of deep diving into it and cover in a little bit more detail how to set up your room, how to look at potential problems, solutions, and so on. Because like Joel says, these AVRs and processors, they're very, very clever nowadays with the processing power that they have and so on, but they're not miracle workers, and you have to take the right steps before you get to that stage to get the absolute best out of your system. So if there is interest in that subject, you want us to deep dive into it, then send us your feedback, all the usual channels, all the usual ways. Just write us a quick note telling us what you would like us to cover, and we'll look at doing that. But thanks again, Jules, for your expertise, and I'm sure we will be coming back and looking at that subject in a little bit more finer detail.